This video tutorial is on the qualities of a sports leader for the unit Leadership in Sport. Throughout this video lecture we're going to look at content on the qualities of sports leaders, and we need to be mindful in watching and making notes on this video on how we can show progress when we are carrying out activities in class and when you're trying to understand the topical content. So firstly, here we're looking at describing the qualities of effective sports leaders, and you're encouraged to use your own words in this in creating sentences to be descriptive, but also use references where appropriate. Secondly, you're going to be asked to explain the qualities of sports leaders, again in your own words, and the key aspect here with a variety of examples for effective sports leadership. So we're looking at positive examples, and specifically here with examples we're looking at detail. What do the actual coaches do, or the captains, or the fitness instructors, or the outdoor activities instructors, as we look at a variety of sports leaders. So a key aspect here is being aware that there's a difference in terms of the sports coaching unit. We look at sports leaders as not just sports coaches, but team captains, PE teachers, instructors in fitness or in outdoor and adventurous activities, as a few examples. Thirdly, we're hopefully going to be able to have enough understanding and awareness in order to analyse the qualities of sports leaders, and we should be able to do this by discussing the importance of each quality for effective leadership. Here are the 4 qualities of sports leaders that we're going to look at. We're going to look at knowledge of sport skills, knowledge of rules and laws, understanding of mental needs of the participant or participants, and understanding of physical needs of the participants. On the right hand side here we have a few images of sports leaders. We have head coaches, we have athletics coaches, another head coach in Tracy Neville, Mark Sampson obviously in Glenn Mills. We have PE teachers, which could be primary or secondary if we have physical activity leaders, or PE teachers again, and again another head coach. As we look at knowledge of sports skills, this is essentially where the sports leader is able to impart information to the participant, and that is in order to teach or educate them, and that might be with regard to the technique of a particular skill, in which case they may break down a skill, or it might be in relation to performance of particular skills in games or activities. Are PE teachers, for example, not just breaking down a skill like we might see in this image here and looking at the technical content of the participant's non-kicking foot next to the ball? It might be in any of these coaches at the bottom and David Rush relating to tactical situations in a game, how to play with the ball or without the ball, and certainly in terms of Trevor Bayliss it might be performance of certain skills in game situations. When is the right time to play certain shots or try to be attacking in terms of bowling, or defensive in bowling? That might relate to the tactical aspect of the game as well. Importantly also, we have fitness instructors here as an image in the bottom right hand corner. This might well be, again, breaking down the skill, looking at the technique, not necessarily in a sporting situation, but in a performance or a fitness situation. If we look at strength and conditioning coaches or fitness trainers, they're generally looking at the technical aspect of that physical performance, whether it is running mechanics, whether it is being able to perform a lift, and that might have implications relating to performance in a match as well. Moving on to knowledge of rules and laws. This is particularly important for a number of sports leaders and is again imparting information to the participant or participants, but this is in order to enforce and provide an understanding in relation to abiding by and applying regulations. For example, a head coach in netball might need to be aware of the regulations relating to how long they have in a timeout, when they can call timeouts, and that might be particularly related to a captain in this situation if they are trying to enforce those rules or regulations on court. We have etiquette in consideration of others, and that might be in relation to, for example, an athletics coach in terms of the warm-up routines and the arena, how athletes have to be at a young age aware of how they should act to provide a good etiquette towards their competitors beforehand, and not have a lack of awareness of how to act and be responsible as a performer in the performance arena and around that stage. Importantly, in terms of the rules and laws, safety considerations in use of equipment, and that might be for all activities. It could be relation to outdoor activities instructors. We have to be aware of the health and safety of participants, so that might be in examples such as how many participants each leader can take, what the safety regulations are in terms of wearing harnesses or helmets, life jackets, etc., and making sure that first and foremost we have safety of our participants. Overall, again, we could have another situation, a captain here. You don't have to use Stephen Caldwell, who's a fantastic Burnley captain, but you could use anybody, for example, Charlotte Cook, England cricket captain, or Lee Cattermole, in any situation relating to abiding by the rules and regulations in terms of interacting with the official or the referees in a game. Charlotte Cook, for example, calling a timeout, that might be important in her sport. It might be more a case of asking for video replay, where we might feel like we have got a cause for a batter to be out. Understanding of mental needs of participants. This is important as sports leaders of all varieties certainly need to have an awareness of the psychological factors of their participants. And this is essentially in a number of different areas. Participants certainly have individual personality traits, so one person will differ from another in terms of how they act in certain situations, but that's largely coming from them as a person. Importantly, how people act in those group settings and individual settings are important. We might have some of our players or athletes or participants who are particularly quiet in front of large groups, and that will affect how we should interact with them. And that's particularly important in terms of how we motivate those people. And again, different participants might need different forms of motivation, so we need to be aware of that. And essentially in terms of the appropriate language that we use. Now, if we're looking at this last point, the appropriate use of language, if we're as a sports leader interacting with a young participant compared to an adult, the terminology that we use would be quite different, because we need to be able to be aware of how we can transfer a message effectively from one sports leader to a participant, and it might also change from one participant to another, and that could be related to individual personality traits, and do we demonstrate to certain people, do we verbally give information to other people. The fourth quality of a sports leader is understanding of the physical needs of the participant or participants. This is where we need to be able to acknowledge and be able to act appropriately upon the differences, physical differences of participants. For example, within our coaching sessions, we may adapt the practice to meet individuals' needs, and that would be something which we might do as sports leaders in fitness areas such as strength and conditioning coaches and personal trainers. It might well be in outdoor activities instructors. We need to adapt things. So different ways which we might show an understanding is increasing or decreasing of the distance, and that might be different for different people within a group that we are leading or coaching. Certainly in that fitness area, it might be increasing or decreasing the weight. We would see two people doing the same exercise. It might be that we ask one person to do more reps and more sets, or we might just increase and decrease the weight slightly for different people. We in those cases we're either progressing or regressing an activity, and the important aspect here is that we maintain a challenge throughout. We need participants to be engaged, and if they are physically engaged in an activity, if it is the speed of the activity, and how much they're involved, um, appropriately to them as an individual, then we keep that challenge for them, and that might well have a knock-on effect in terms of the mental needs of having to have their mind engaged with an activity, depending on how complex it is, and that might relate and look at the differences in elite level coaching to PE teaching at possibly primary or secondary level, depending on our participants. Now, we've looked at the 4 different qualities of sports leaders. It's important now that, as well as taking on board different examples of how different leaders need or have those various qualities and show them within their sports leadership, we are able to look at these 4 different qualities and provide a little bit of an understanding of which is more important. So think about which of these you feel are more important as qualities of sports leaders in relation to the different types of leaders. So if you feel that captains, sports coaches and head coaches, PE teachers, primary school PE teachers, fitness instructors, outdoor activities instructors, if you feel they all need one of these particular qualities more than the others, then that might be the most important for you. And think about what might be the best order in terms of this is more important as a quality than this next quality, and what might be least important in relation to, are there any of these qualities which particular types of leaders don't need or don't need as much as the others. And that will certainly help with that third aspect of analysing, and that's that analysis aspect here in terms of what's the importance of each quality and this third point of how we are showing progress. Just to conclude, ensure that you are very clear in terms of how you are going to show progress when you're making notes and carrying out the activities. Can we first and foremost be descriptive of each of those qualities, and then can we provide an explanation through examples? And if we're able to provide a variety of examples, we'll stand ourselves in good stead for certainly understanding the qualities of sports leaders. And that final aspect, as we have just touched on, what's more important relating to which or how many of the different types of leaders require the individual qualities more than others.